Hello and welcome everyone in another episode of Researcher Celebrity. Today we have Dr. Lokesh Saravanan with us, who is currently a postdoctoral research associate at Department of Chemistry in University of Utah and has earned his PhD in physics from National Dong Hua University, Taiwan. With this brief introduction, I'll say thank you so much, Dr. Lokesh, for taking time out for this conversation.
Thank you. Thank you for the introduction. So yeah, I'm Lokesh. Yeah, I've done a PhD in physics, like you said, like in National Dong Hua University in Taiwan. Before that, I've done a master's in nanoscience and technology. So that was a big transition from coming from nanoscience technology to the physicist. And then now I'm doing a postdoc in the chemistry department. It's kind of like I'm working still on this material field, but only the application is kind of different. So I always wanted to work between the materials and then like current situation, how you can tackle the world's problem. So that's how my journey started from nanoscience to physics and then to nano chemistry. So here, first thing that I want to say is when I started the research in during my nanoscience field, I have no idea what the science is about. That was my like very first field of science that or the research that I wanted to do. But I actually wanted to go something in the like IT field, like learning something about the programming and then like Python and all those stuffs. But since the IT field at that time when I studied masters, it was not like it was already on the peak. So I don't want to choose which already have so many competitions. And I wanted to choose something else, and that's why I chose the science, and which was like a most challenging part in my life at that time. Sorry. So I took as a challenge, and then I started science, doing science. That time I didn't know like what the science is about. So I slowly started to learn what is science, and then that made me like put my curiosity in the science field, and then I started learning several things, not only in the science field and also in the other fields also. So so those turning points like pushed me towards the research here. And talking about my current role as a postdoc, so I'm doing in the chemistry department, as I said. Right now, I working on the materials in the atomic size materials like subnano clusters, and bringing that clusters to like tackling the world's problem, which is the energy problem now. Right now, we have it. So I'm currently working on the fuel cells. So where I want to like use these materials and then make it work for the fuel cells. Um, and then out those fuel cell can be more efficient in the next few years, which is we are also like going out of this fossil fuels in like the next 5 years or 10 years. And also you see that the gasoline price is also increasing now. So I want to tackle this problem, and then so that in the next few years we can have like a better efficiency and then a better fuels. So that's why right now I'm working as a postdoc in the fuel cell field.
Great. Thank you so much, Lokesh,
Yeah,
for a great overview. And we normally have these conversations in different stages, like
yeah.
pre-PhD, during PhD, and post-PhD. So let's
Okay.
start with the pre-PhD when you mentioned that you did your master's in nanoscience technology.
Yes,
That was in India.
yes, it's in India in Karunya University in Coimbatore.
Okay. So from Caronia to Taiwan, let's take this first step phase that what were the parameters you were looking for, and when the vibe matched, then you joined National Donghua University.
Okay. So when I complete my master's in Karunya University, I wasn't actually looking for PhD to do PhD. So I was wanted to do some job like how usually people think, like once you study and they go for job. So that's what I was doing. And then I tried searching for jobs for 1 year. And then I found a few jobs and I worked with a few companies, which is not related to science. But I always want I that time I also wanted to like do something which related to my field. What the so my course that what I studied. So when I tried to start searching for the job, I didn't find any job in the science field. And I don't want to like go for like a 10,000 INR or 15,000 INR. I want to make myself productive, and then also I want to find a very good job and which I can afford my life at that time. So I tried to find like 1 year, and then I couldn't find. And then I thought, okay, maybe the internship will help me to find a better PhD position. So that's how I started to find internships. And then I found there was a Deep Asia program in Taiwan. So you can apply there, and then you can find some universities and then PIs that you can work with. So that's how I found an internship in National Dongguan University under Wang Chi, a professor. So I went there, and then I tried to do like 6 months of internship. Even the professor said, if you like it, you can join as a PhD student after 6 months of internship. I was trying to think whether should I stay in the same university or should I go to the other better universities. But the professor I work with is really a good professor, and he doesn't focus mostly on the science, but he focus how to train people's mind, like how to be a better PhD student. So I like that strategy. So I started doing PhD under the same professor under the same project that I worked for the internship, and that helped me to choose a PhD in a better way. So I think if anybody wants to do PhD, don't just go right away and then find a professor, and don't be happy with whatever you got at the first time. So first spend some time, and then find a better PI, better project, and a better university and better work environment.
Absolutely. And I think this is very important. As you mentioned, you met with your mentor, you worked with them, and then now there are certain qualities which kind of forces you that, okay, now you feel that you are a good fit for the lab. The
Yeah.
research questions are what you are interested and passionate about. And the most important part, which you mentioned, that the mentor should be student focused. Like they are there to mentor you, to train you, instead of just dumping their science onto you, because we have seen this. And that's why now the scenario of PhD students is not the same as it was 20 years ago.
Yes, right.
Now let's take some time to discuss that what are the things which you faced during your PhD and which you are happy about, and what are the things which you have either experienced or your peers have told you that they were suffering.
Okay, that's a good question. So when I started doing internship in that lab, I was the very first student in that lab, and I was the very first student for that professor who I work with. So when I went there, I have no idea how the research is going to be like for as a PhD student. I actually established the lab, and when I started going on the first day to that lab, there were like no instruments. There are very few like basic instruments, and which I thought first like I cannot do anything with this instrument and complete a PhD here. So, and then the professor gave me very good advice that PhD is not about like publishing a paper, just like so you need to own a skill that you can train some more students, and then that is the main goal for the PhD program. So you have to train your mind and then develop a skill. And once you develop a skill, you can publish as many papers as you want. So that time my main focus was to first establish the lab and learn as much I can, and then try to publish paper out of that, um, and then find a better job from there.
And trust me, establishing the lab, having that experience early in your career helps you long way if you're committed to research, and that is something which you really want to do.
Yes.
Because we have had these conversations with early career faculties where they were very passionate about their science in PhD, completed their postdocs, and landed up in the PI position. But now what, there are so many things, because being a researcher is not one role. It is the umbrella under which you have different heads. Sometimes you have to be administrator, sometimes you have to be an HR, most of
Yeah,
the time you have to be an accountant writing those grants.
yeah,
So having that experience of establishing a lab, like starting from procurement and then repairs and then whatnot all. So
yeah.
would you like to share that experience? Because now after your internship, then PhD, and now in postdocs in different levels, how that skill set has helped you in performing your research efficiently.
So yeah, when I went there, as I said, that there was no instrument. So first I chosen my project that I'm going to work. It's always good to start your project with what the PA have done previously. So that the PA can have a better idea about what my research is going to lead me. And then also you can have some references like about what how the work is going to be. So when I went there, and then first I tried to set up an instrument by buying from a very single parts of the instrument from the scratch. So I built an instrument, and then for the very first 1 year or 1 year, 6 months, I don't have any students in my lab. I was the only one working there. So out of that, I started writing a paper. I got a very good results out of that, and then I published one paper. And then from that funding, we got some new students like from masters. So that was a very good experience when there was like a rotating students for the lab. There were like 3 or 4 master students came to my lab, and professor asked me to choose like a two master students out of that. And I was very confused to choose like which one, because everyone were doing so better, and it is very hard decision for me to choose it. So if you in the future, if I want a lab, and then if I want to be an academic field, and then I want a lab, that is a very good experience for me when I start to doing this HR job basically. So yeah, that is a very good experience. So when you want to choose a student, you have to first think how the students are productive and how the students are curious to learn the experiments, not just like a come and then do and whatever we say and then go back home and then do nothing after that. So I don't like those kind of students. So I want the student who can help my research, and also I can teach them what I learn. So that is how the science works in the research. So yeah, that's how I grew up. And then right now, if and also like if you want to buy any small parts from the suppliers, you need to have an account of everything. And that too, like it was in Chinese when I was in Taiwan, and it was not even in English. And that is like a very annoying part, which I don't like it, because all the documents will be in Chinese. You have to also consider all this if you want to do PhD in other countries, like the language barriers. So, but still somehow I used a Google Translator to do those accountants and then maintenance of the instruments. So those are the challenging parts I faced.
So I think this is common, and there are more layers to these challenges, especially
Yeah,
in terms of social, cultural, and language. Obviously, is one of them.
yeah.
And one thing which we as researchers somehow sometimes kind of not keep it as our priority is also the environmental conditions. Like,
Mhm.
what are the places you really want to be in? And apart from your research, obviously, if you are moving to a country or to a new city, you
Yeah.
know that you have been selected for your knowledge of science, but that's not where you are going to spend all your 24 hours. You will be out, you will be hanging out with friends, making new friends, collaborations, and as much as less hurdles you have, that gives you more better, like, making it more efficient and effective in terms of developing new research collaborations.
Yeah.
Now, during when you were towards the edge of your PhD, when
Mhm.
you managed to do whatever you really wanted to, what were the things before submitting your thesis about your postdoc opportunities, and what were the criteria you had for yourself that you will be joining only labs based on your criteria?
So one criteria or the self um, how to say this? Like one challenging part I have is communicating your work with other researchers. So that is the one skill that every PhD student should have it. So you need to know how to communicate your work with others. And by the end of the PhD time, you need to know the same thing. Like if from my experience, if I want to like choose a master students, how would you choose it? So that is the same thing you need to know when you want to apply for the job or a postdoc or anything. So when I before I finished my PhD, I started to applying to a postdocs in like 6 months before. First, I fixed my thesis date, defense date, and then I started to applying postdoc in the different universities and then different countries. So out of that, I got like some like 4 or 5 postdoc positions, but then I choose like which one is going to relate similar to my research. And also, you don't want to continue the same research. You want to have a like better research on or something advanced research, but always try to stick in the same field unless you want to change the field or something. So I feel like I wanted to still work on the materials field and then try to do the some kind of different application and then different techniques that I use to prepare the materials. So that's how I started to apply, and then I filtered among those 4 postdoc positions, and then I chose the University of Utah here. And right now, this when I have started to apply to this professor that I'm working with now, so he is working on the clusters, and as I said, like I started doing my master's in nanoscience, and then physics, and then chemistry. When I studied the nanoscience. I always study about the nanosized materials. But when I did PhD, I was started to work on the bulk material, but it has some like nanostructures. And right now, I'm completely working on the sub-nano-sized material. So that's how my research is like. That's the only track that I have from the nanoscience. So yeah, that's how you choose a postdoc and then have a better transition and then try to use advanced instrument and compete with other researchers in the community.
So keeping this skill development in one part as a core,
Yeah.
like there are certain skill sets you have learned during your PhD, and then now something you want to build upon in your postdoc. But
Mhm.
the most important question is, before starting the PhD, you knew that what you really want to do with your PhD. Based on that, now you know that what is the next level skills, at either advancement in the same area or next skill set which you have to earn before you want to have your own lab.
Um, so when you're doing PhD, you always have a support from the PI. So once you finish PhD, you will not expect support from anyone. You are an individual, independent researcher. So you need to first have that skill so that you can work independently no matter what project you get it. So that is the very important skill that every PhD student should have. So my PA actually started me to train for that like 2 years ago. Sorry, 2 years from the time of a PhD when I finish the PhD. So I started to like have my independent skills and run the project by my own without any support. And even if you want to have a collaboration, you need to email them. My PA doesn't email or anything, so you have to email them and then find the collaborations and then. That is a very good skill to. That's why, like I said, like you need to know how to communicate your work with other researchers so that they can understand your work and then they know at least you are like a better researcher and that will help for all the postdoc positions and then you can do independent researchers.
Nice. That is one thing which is very important whenever the people who are listening to this conversation, either you are a PhD student or a postdoc, you have to have a clarity, at least for immediate couple of years, if not like they say, where you see in yourself in 5 years, 10 years, if not, but having that clarity, what is required, because as Lokesh mentioned, some of the researchers, which we had these researcher celebrity conversation with, struggled that they were passionate about research. They knew they want to do a PhD, but what was the point? What's missing was they do not know after that what is the path they really want to. And then that is one of the biggest reasons why the dropout of PhD students is increasing after 3 years, 4 years, or 5 years, when they have already done whatever it requires to do a PhD or to earn that. At that stages, they are dropping out because either the situations are responsible for that, or because they are not sure where they want to go with that degree. Coming to Lokesh, have you ever experienced in past almost a decade when you started your master's research, then internship, and then now as a postdoctoral, have you ever thought of quitting the research?
Yes. The very first time I thought is when I did my master's project where I worked on thin film. So I always like the very early researchers, I thought the same way. Like once you do the experiment, I expect the results instantly, which the research never worked like that. The research takes time to get a better result, and then all those I had like several failed experiments. So that's the moment when I thought that I should quit research and do something else. But all the failed experiments will teach you something. Then I understood that the research is going to be this way. Like it's not going to give an instant result. It's like a long-term investment. So yeah, I thought that several times, but once I understood that okay, research is not going to be this way, and then you have to keep working on it. Once you have a failed experiments, learn something from that. So these are the lessons that you want to implement in the next experiment. So that's yeah, I have thought about that several times.
So what we say in here is to all the audience whosoever are listening to these conversations, that having this self doubt once in a while is not a bad thing, but you cannot live with this doubt for a longer duration, because as Lokesh also mentioned, these thoughts might come like when you feel that you are imposters, you do not belong to that field, but the reality is that you are going through a phase of stress, which if you are observant enough and you are conscious enough about your research objectives, and your long term path, like what you really want to do, that the way you approach. And Lokesh mentioned this also, that observation is the important part, that whatever you are learning out of your failed experiments, if something failed, what are the different ways you can troubleshoot it? Because few of the easiest PhDs have raised some of the not so well prepared researchers, because what they have never experienced in their PhD is the troubleshooting. There was a project which was ready, experiments which were all written down. Some students do PhD this way also, where PI has a running ongoing project, everything is in streamlined, you just perform it, get the data, get the publications, and PhD is done. But what is missing is the most important part. So, Lokesh,
Yeah.
those failed experiments,
Hmm.
which forced you to think that, okay, I think I should give up on it.
Hmm.
And you obviously did not, and that's why you are where you are. Your personal experiences, how you came out of those moments of self doubt, of the minutes or times when you were ready to give up.
So the simple answer for that question is just accept whatever the science tells you. So, like the one thing that when I do the experiment is when I do A and then B, that should give the answer C. But science can give like C1, C2, C3, C4, like several outputs. But you need to accept like why you get that. So you need to learn from that. Like, oh, okay, maybe I've made something wrong in the A. and then maybe B behaves like this, and that's why I get the C like here. So you need to have that kind of learning, and you have to accept that science never lies. Like you have to accept whatever it says. So yeah, that's the only thing that I wanted to say here.
I think if I can add acceptance and understanding,
Yeah.
accept the results what they are, and
Yes.
then try to understand why
Hmm.
the hypothesis has not been fulfilled or have been failed. What are the
Yeah.
reasons for that? Because as you mentioned, that science never lies. And this brings us to the next point, which we try to, based on the compounded wisdom having these conversations with researcher celebrities, the one of the top researchers, they always say, never marry an scientific idea. They're like, you have to be open-minded with that.
Yes. And also you need to have a curiosity to learn anything. And yeah, it's all about science.
Absolutely. I think keeping this open-minded attitude is what, in real terms, defines you as a researcher. Because one thing which research never teaches anyone is to be biased. The more you are unbiased, the better you are as a researcher. The more you are biased, you are limiting yourself, and then it brings the next level of complexity, which is happening in current time and have been increased logarithmically over past 20 years when people talk about paper retractions, plagiarism, and manipulating the data. These things were probably there somewhere underlying in 20 years ago, but now they are increasing more and more. And one of the biggest reason for that is when the researcher is not open-minded about the hypothesis outcome. Whenever you start the research, you write a hypothesis. You have your own rationale why you really want to perform that project. And then what are the expected outcomes which are there? Might or might not come the way you want, as Lokesh also mentioned. So, Lokesh, when a researcher, let's say you moving from India to Taiwan and Taiwan to United States, as you mentioned, science never lies. Science almost remains the same.
Yeah.
But the work environment, the infrastructure, how does that change and help you as a researcher? And first, let's take this. Yeah.
So, yeah, the work environment also matters a lot, and that impacts any researchers. So, when I was in Taiwan, one challenge that I face is a language barrier. You cannot communicate with other students, which they lack of English knowledge there. So, but the professors, PAs have a very good English knowledges. So, yeah, you need, if you want to communicate yourself with the any students or teach something, you need to know how to teach with the students, and so that environment will teach you so many things, like how to teach science for non-experts, and how to teach science for with the experts, how to talk your work with others. And when I came here to the United States, and that barrier breaks because everyone speaks English, and that is like a common language. Everyone communicate the science. So when I came here, so I have like very good opportunity to speak myself about the research, and also talk my work with the other students, and then teach them, and then I learn from them in English. So that is the one challenges I faced during in the environmental situations. So yeah, and also like I told you, when you work in the different countries, and also if you are the very first PhD student, you will learn a lot. So yeah, so those environments will change you and make you stronger every time.
And the training of your PhD, like, or during your PhD time, when you have learned how to establish a lab and also how to work with student selection, that
Yeah.
you are now responsible for the students you are picking up. How did that go? If you can share that experience. You selected 2 out of 4.
Yes. So I selected 2 out of 4 based on their interest on the work and how much they try to dedicate their themselves in the research. So, and also I always give them some task to to do the experiments. The first thing is to teach them how to do the experiment, so that by doing the experiment you can understand them, like how much they want to learn. So, and always I always make them ask question, rather I keep telling them. So I won't teach them everything. I will first see if they are trying to, if they want to ask any questions to me about this or not. So by that you can understand, okay, he is very curious to learn and he is very interested to do this experiment. So that's my strategy to find the students, because once you take the student, you don't have to teach everything to them. You also need to learn from them something. So it needs to be like a very friendly way to learn and then to teach everything. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think having start these conversations by setting up clear expectations. What
Yeah.
are their expectations from you as a mentor, whereas what are your expectations from them as a mentee? And you correctly said that it is always a two-way process. It's not only that the student is the one who's learning, the PI, the mentors are also learning so many things. And that is one way how you can see that someone is open-minded or not, because
Yeah.
when you're approaching your supervisor, your mentor with a scientific idea, and if they're not open, if they're just like shut down, that no, you do what I say, probably is not one of the labs where you want to work. Or again, if you're a student who just want to work on a given step by step basis, again, it is up to you. In these conversations, one thing which have been coming up all the time, that not every student can do research with every supervisor, and vice versa, because you have to see your space in that lab, how it works for you. And that's why when we say about work environment, work life balance, every lab have their own way to deal with it, and then you have to say that which one works the best for you. Lokesh,
Uh,
based on, yeah, please.
yeah. No, no, you continue your question.
So I was asking that based on your experience, when now people are talking more about work-life balance, what
Mhm.
have you experienced? And then based on that, what you can share with our audience.
So, I have few friends who choose the wrong lab, and they are trying to adapt to the lab environment. And even after like 3 years, 4 years, they're still complaining that these things are not going good, all this stuff. So yeah, I think once you find out that this is not the right lab, you're free to like change the lab or anything. Don't try to convince yourself that you can still work in this lab and then do PhD, but no, it's not going to work. So if you think in the like very few months that it's not going to work, and you have a better labs that you can work with, then just go there. Don't think so much. So yeah, like I have a few friends who are working like that. So I think that will help. And for the work-life balance, when you do PhD, uh, personally, I dedicated myself towards PhD, so doing science. I didn't think about like having a better life other than doing science. But yeah, my parents and my sisters, they supported me very well for that. So yeah, you need to always have a support before doing PhD, because sometimes PhD can finish in 3 years, sometimes 4 years, 5 years, and sometimes like 7 years also. There are several students who do more than 7 years, and yeah, you need to. It's not like a degree course that you have, like you can finish in 4 years. You can extend as much as you want, and you need to get prepared for everything before you do PhD. And you should know that if your family can survive in this like 7 years, and have a deadline and then do. And like if you can also have like a set a deadline, like if you want to do PhD in 4 years, 5 years, and if you cannot finish PhD after 5 years, you can, if the family is like going in a like a financial trouble, because in PhD you don't get like a very good salary or wages. So if you think that way, then I think you can take a break and then do a job for 1 or 2 years and then come back and do PhD with those savings. Yeah, so that's how I didn't think about other things when I do science. So
We do have researchers who do not see that as a work-life balance, because they say that research is their life and they are always, that is what makes them happy. So
yeah,
that is, so we understand that part. But again, having your priority set, as you mentioned, that priority might change at every single stage. When you are single, you can devote more time to your research. When you have a family, you have responsibilities, then it might change. But a successful researcher is the one who's organized and know when to prioritize what. If you are submitting a rebuttal for a manuscript, so then obviously you might be willing to share that extra time to the research. Whereas when you have a marriage in the family, siblings, or what, then you know that at that time what thing you want to keep on your first priority. And these are dynamic. Being humans, some people think that researchers are crazy humans. Some of us agree with that, but still mostly whatever we say in these conversations, that researchers are human beings with all the good bad feelings, competition and whatnot all. But what keeps you on the upper edge, the societal heart which you have, like you want to do something which helps the humans, the environment, the animal, everywhere around us, to make a world the better place. In Empowering Science Foundation, that's why we have that world map India, and then point that Indians going everywhere in the world to empower science by their research efforts. So that is so. And now, when we are walking towards the edge of the conversation, Lokesh, any uh, word of wisdom we say, which you
mhm.
want to share on based on your experience in research?
So there are a lot many things to say for that. Um, yeah, like if you want to commit yourself to the science, you need to dedicate yourself. Um, and also like you need to have some curiosity to learn everything. And yeah, that's right.
Curiosity and dedication,
Yeah.
absolutely. We can say to all the audience that if you want to write to Dr. Lokesh, you can write to him. If you want STEM for Society to put you in touch with our researcher celebrities, we are more than happy to do that for you. The only thing which we want from your side is, if research makes you happy, we are there to help you. The idea of this conversation is not to bring you to science or not you started hating science. These are all the conversations which researchers talk based on what they have experienced, how they have navigated those challenges which came. And we did have researchers who gave up on research and joined in different roles, alternate routes, as Lokesh is now working towards the alternate fuels, because we might run up our on fossil fuels. This is what makes researchers ready for future and to make this world a better place to work with. With this, we'll say thank you so much, Lokesh, for taking time out and having these conversations with us.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me for the researcher celebrity.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And for all the audience, we'll say stay tuned for another episode of Researchers Celebrity.